answer general questions about moving to Portugal, what it takes, and what we need to do. So when you have questions, feel free to drop them into the comments, and Fiona, who is managing in the back, will be posting those up so that we can get started in answering them. Hi, everyone. Hi, Patty. Hi, Paul. Oh, cool. Rainy in Alaska. We've got a lot of people from the West Coast. I see East Coast as well. So gorgeous in Cape Cod. And I just see people popping up here from all over the US. So welcome to everyone. So Caroline, before we jump into questions, how about we talk about the latest and greatest? What is confirmed with any immigration changes, if anything, and what are we still waiting for?
Immigration-wise, the only thing that it's confirmed for now is we used to have a different immigration authority, which the name was SAF, and it changed to IMA. And it took out the police duties of SAF out of it. And now with IMA, they didn't have this kind of police power. So now the only thing that has changed so far is creating an immigration kind of police. Everything else that we have been seeing on the news is still for approval. So if something changes soon, it's about family reunion and job-seeking visas, but that's still waiting for the president's approval.
And the clarification on a job-seeking visa, that's not a D8 visa, correct?
No. The D8 visa is the visa when you come, you already have a employer outside of Portugal, and then you want to come to Portugal and keep working to that employer. The job-seeking visa is when you're looking for an employer here in Portugal, and now if the law is approved, it's going to be only for qualified workers and no longer any kind of worker.
And do we have a definition at all of what a qualified worker is yet?
Not really. For now, when you have a D3, it's a highly qualified worker. And from that, we know that it's someone that has been in the field for the past 5 years, or someone that has a salary that it's higher than 1,600 more or less. But the law indicates that they're going to regulate this again, and this is no longer going to be the case.
Okay. So there's still a lot of information up there. One of the things that I've been sharing and really trying to make sure is communicated is even with the laws that are going to pass, they still have to do a lot of work behind the scenes to build up how and they're going to enforce them and what are going to be the rules and who and when and all of that. So we have a lot more to learn. Yes.
Usually new laws comes with new regulations and new procedures. So even if that changes now, we will still have to wait a couple of months to know for sure what are the new terms of the new kinds of visa or the visas that are changing.
Absolutely. So Leanne here has a question. Do I need legal docs drawn up in Portugal as well as those I have here in the United States for my estate planning? I wonder what law governs in the event or when either my wife or I die in Portugal under a D7 visa as a permanent resident. Sorry, it's such a morbid question. First off, Leanne, it's not a morbid question. It's so important to do this planning and get prepared. I can tell you from personal experience, we moved with my father when he was 81 and he passed away here in Portugal. And we actually didn't realize that there was requirements for specific paperwork in Portugal because things we had in the States, such as an advance directive, were not accepted. So really smart to be asking these questions now. Caroline, what do they need here when it comes to wills and advance directives, those kind of things?
It's important to have a lawyer in Portugal to set up the will. But visa-wise, it's important also to know that after 2 years of residence permit, if you have a family reunion or if you have an accompanying visa, after 2 years holding your residence permit, you are allowed to have your individual permit. So you won't have to leave in the case of your family member dying. And as long as you still have some passive income or you qualify for some kind of visa and living in Portugal, you will be able to renew your residency.
So if you pass away or a spouse passes away under the D7 here, for example, the spouse would be able to stay as long as they're able to continue to support the visa minimum requirements.
Yeah, that's it. Because every residence permit, the first one at least, will have a duration of 2 years. And they will not cancel in case of your spouse or your family member dies. So when it comes the time for the renewal, as long as you can prove that you can stay in Portugal, that you have the capacity of providing for yourself under those terms, you're allowed to stay and renew your residency.
And I can tell you from my experience, and Caroline, this is something we found that's different. In the United States, you can do an advance directive at any point in your life, and that's, your right, the rights that you would like to be applied in the case of you getting sick. For example, how much medical intervention you want. And if you'd like to have sustaining life support or not, those kind of things. In the States, you can do it once and have it with your documents, and then it'll be honored wherever you go in the US. What I found here is if you don't have one specifically drawn up in Portugal, that they wouldn't follow that advance directive, because in many cases, they said it had to be newer, it has to be renewed every 5 years, and it has to be structured in a Portuguese way. So you do need to come to Portugal, have a will created so that if you have assets, those assets don't end up in probate, because that's not fun for any family member. And then also you do want to have estate planning around an advance directive to take whatever you have in the States and make it legal in Portugal. All right, let's see. We have Lauren, does the new law also have changes proposed to extend citizenship by descent to third generation? Carolyn, do you have any?
This is a different law. This is the citizenship law that is going to change, but the discussions about it has changed now to September, because they are still discussing what is constitutional, what's not. So we're not sure. Anything that we have been reading at the news as it was certain, and it's something that will definitely happen, we actually don't know if it's happened, but it indicates that this is the path that we're going, but I don't feel comfortable saying that this will happen.
We don't know any of it until it becomes law. There are still so many opportunities for things to change. Are visa appointments still approximately 3 to 4 months out? How are we feeling about that?
It is. It depends where also. It changes from each VFS center. It depends which consulate. Some consulates are faster than others, but that's the average timing.
Yeah, that seems to be holding steady.
Yeah.
And regarding the D7 visa, once you exceed the required money in a Portuguese bank account, what amount must be maintained in that bank account outside of the additional required passive income coming in monthly?
There are 3 moments, and you're going to that you have to prove how much you have inside a bank account. The first moment is at the VFS appointment. The second moment when you're at the IMA appointment here in Portugal, and later on at the renewal. After these appointments, and when you show proof of your bank statements, no one will be verifying how much you have in those accounts. So you can use the money the way that you feel best. And when it comes the time to showing them that you have these means available, you transfer back, show them the statement, and you can use your money the way that you prefer. It's not something that it's not a money that you have to consider as savings.
Right. So
it's just to prove income. It's just to prove that you have means to support yourself. So use the income to support yourself.
Yeah, so if you put 15,000 euros in your bank account for you and your spouse, you go to your 2 appointments, your VFS and your IMA, and then the next one isn't for 2 more years. That bank account could be fluid in between that period of time. Yeah. But when you go for renewal, you'll have to prove that you have the means to support yourself.
Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. All right. As part of the visa process, I know we need to get NIFs and open a bank account. Does PTP assist with this? And if so, how? Yes. Mary, so we have partners like moviin that can help get your NEEFs. We don't do that specifically as we're not lawyers, but we are able to provide that service. And then we do open the bank accounts for you. That's part of what we do. We have a relationship with Novo Banco and we can do it all remote. So when you sign up with us for one of the relocation services that we offer, that's part of what we do. So for the NEEF, we have partners that will help you with that. And then the bank account will get set up and open. All right. And Roger's asking, what is the required amount of money one should put in a Portuguese bank account? Carolyn?
The requirement depends on your family unit, with who you coming with you. But for a main applicant, just one person, it's a year of minimum wage. The minimum wage in Portugal this year, it's 870. For each family member of legal wage that comes with you with an accompanying visa, it's half of a minimum wage more. So 535 multiplied by 12 more. And each minor, each kid that comes with you is 30% of the minimum wage more, 261. And then you multiply that and do the math, and you will know how much you must have in your bank account.
But there is some benefit. I like to tell our clients that if you can put more, then you will need to put more than the bare minimum, because when you have a long-term lease, there'll be the expectation that utilities will be set up to come out, because you'll have some months of expenses before you physically live in Portugal. So planning not just for the bare minimum, but also for the lease that you will have. You'll have rent and you'll have basic utilities for the months that you have the lease between your application for VFS and when you physically live here. So
this is what you need to prove, visa related. But of course, if there are money coming out and you need to pay for some of your bills, always have some more. And if you have more than the minimal required, also it makes your case stronger.
Yes, it looks, if you can avoid being at the minimum, it's always going to make your application look stronger. But that is the required if you're a single person, just think of the Portuguese minimum wage times 12. Margaret's asking, do we expect the D7 visa to be around next year, although the monetary requirements might change? Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no indication that D7s and digital nomad visas are going to change.
Yeah, and they do adjust for the minimum wage. If there's an increase in the minimum wage, you'll see a slight increase. I wish we'd see more in the minimum wage increase, because that would be great for the Portuguese. But it's been nominal increases that adjust with the Portuguese minimum wage.
Sure.
Roger's asking, so if you are there on a D7 visa, your U.S. trust and will won't be followed. That is yes-ish. It's you need a Portuguese will for your assets, especially if you purchase property in Portugal, because Portugal has very complicated probate laws. It's very simple to create a Portuguese will. It's not a difficult process. In a lot of cases, it can be as simple as just referring to the same details or what is in your US will. But you absolutely, to avoid confusion and difficulties for your family that are back in the US, having a will in Portugal will make the whole entire process much easier. And we highly recommend that you get a will in Portugal to make sure that that's taken care of. Sandra is asking, what are the steps to open a bank account if you're not yet living there? We have our NEEF. Well, it's a little complicated because there is only one bank right now, and they're even being, very particular about how they will do that. That's one of the services Portugal The Place offers, is we have a relationship and are able to open remote bank accounts for you. The reason it's so complicated if you're not living here is because compliance paperwork for Portuguese banks with American compliance is so labor intensive that for a lot of the banks, they just don't want to deal with it. The United States requires a lot more paperwork and a lot more compliance to do this. So if you're not living here and you have your NEEF, to open a bank account, you'd really have to come in person. And if you're not working with Portugal The Place, for example, and you would need to, in many cases, already have a residency. You'd have to have some kind of legal address in Portugal for a bank to consider opening a bank account for you. Let's see. Andre is, with a D7 visa, are there restrictions on also earning some income part-time or remotely? Carolyn?
Sorry, there are restrictions
Are
on
there
also earning some income part-time remotely? No, as long as passive income, it's okay.
Mhm.
And if it meets the minimum requirement, it's fine, as long as you have a way of proving it.
Yep. So not a problem to work on the D7. I'm on the D7. I'm here. So it's absolutely fine. All right. Jordan is asking, if we want to come to Portugal before we receive our visa approval, what do we need to do and be aware of? So if I'm reading this correctly, Jordan, in this scenario, you would have had your VFS appointment, but you want to come to Portugal before that travel permit has been approved. If you do that, or any time before you have a visa approved, you are just traveling as a tourist.
Yeah.
You don't have any authorization or lack thereof. If you have 90 days left to come to Portugal, you could come for 90 days and be here as a tourist. So a lot of folks will apply for their visa at the consulate, come over to Portugal to get their apartment set up or do something in the meantime, and then go back to the States to take their passport in and to get that stamp. So as long as you have time to enter the country legally, because you have time left on your tourist visa, you can move in and out while you're waiting.
Okay.
Ray, do you need a letter saying why you want to move to Portugal as part of the visa package? If yes, does it need to be translated?
You need an intention letter. It's important to have one. It's part of the requirements. It doesn't have to be translated. It can be an English letter.
Mm-hmm. And Sandra's asking, can we open a bank account ourselves when we visit for a couple of weeks before going back to buy a property, or do we have to have a third party involved? Almost everyone except Novo Banco, and Novo Banco is minimal, is requiring you already have an address, some type of residency in Portugal, a physical address that you've either leased or purchased to open a bank account if you don't already have one. When you come to Portugal, there are some exceptions and you can make appointments, but they're very selective about opening bank accounts right now for folks that don't have residency in Portugal. When you work with us, we get it set up in the order so that when you have it all done in advance and remotely, and we've created a relationship that's allowed us to do that for our clients, but it's difficult to do without a third party because it's just becoming more and more difficult with the banks here in Portugal.
And even if you try doing it without the someone to assist you with, then a couple of weeks might not be enough for the compliance sector to analyze everything and give you a feedback. So you will have to go back, and then you will need some assistance from someone here.
Yeah, and so what happens, for example, when you open a bank account with us, we start the process with our contact. They send paperwork out. You have to fill in everything. We go through the step-by-step because it's particular down to how you print it, making sure every document has the footnotes, where you sign it. And then you have to send it all back. It has to go through compliance. Then we walk you through how to get the app activated, how to get things going, how to make the deposit. If you don't have somebody that understands that process, it's very easy to miss a step, and then it doesn't work even after you spend hours at the bank trying to do it.
It's true.
Beth and Nancy are asking, if I want to move my vehicle to Portugal, am I able to do this within the first long-term visa of 120 days, or do I need to wait until I get an appointment with IMA and get a 2-year resident visa? You can start that process as soon as you have had the initial approval. So you don't have to wait for the second appointment. It can be part of moving your goods as soon as you have that first approval. Regina is asking, is a birth certificate required for an adult dependent spouse for a D7 visa application, or is this only a requirement for children?
It's a requirement only for children. What you need to prove is the family, because it's not for the main applicant. These are requirements for the family members. So you need to prove the family tie. So when you have kids, the family tie is proven by a birth certificate. When it's a partner, a spouse, then you prove that with the marriage certificate or other documents if they are your partner.
Okay. Sean's asking, on what basis are those figures for a mandatory deposit? Presumably that's monthly. That is the minimum wage in Portugal, and that's a monthly amount.
Mhm.
And it's in euros, not dollars. So you have a dollar sign there. I just want to make sure that that's clear, that that's a euro amount,
Yeah.
not a dollars. Edward is asking, I've embarked on the D7 visa application process with a legal firm and have an appointment with Portuguese immigration at the end of September. The steps have been well outlined for me, and I have 18,000 euros on deposit in a Portuguese bank. The same firm was supposed to help me with locating a furnished rental property, but they are struggling. Is PTP Move-In able to help me with just the real estate portion of my move? So that's where Portugal The Place comes in. We do the relocation piece in between the immigration attorneys and, kind of getting you through the bureaucracy. So Move-In's our partner on the immigration side, but in this case, as you've already engaged with an immigration firm, we can certainly help you. And that's what we do. In many cases, that's exactly where we land. We do the virtual real estate hunt for you for that long-term lease to qualify for your appointment. And you still have time with it being at the end of September. We like to have 4 to 6 weeks to do the hunt and make sure all the paperwork's compliant and doesn't, run into any problems at the last minute. So you still have time. And Margaret's asking, what's the difference between applying for the D7 visa and getting a visa appointment? Until this live session, I wasn't thinking about the visa appointment. Is that done in your home country or in Portugal? Carolyn?
When you're applying for a visa, you will have 2 different appointments to attend. The first one will be a visa appointment when you're asking for a visa under some basis that you qualify for, in this case, D7. So you will go to a VFS center or to a consulate, it depends where you live, to ask for a residency visa. They will have 60 days to issue your visa, and they will stamp a visa that is valid for 120 days in your passport, and it's valid for 120 days. Because it's only valid for 120 days, you will have to exchange this visa for a residence permit. That's when you come to Portugal, and here you will have another appointment to exchange this visa for your residence permit. So the D7 visa requires a visa appointment and later on a IMA appointment.
And those definitely have to be done. The first one has to be done from your home country,
Yes.
for sure. So if you live
Always.
in the States, you have a geographical kind of setup of which consulate you go to. If you are west of the Rockies in the US, you go to San Francisco. That's the easiest thing to note. And then if you are like divided down from Texas and the east, there are different consulates depending on your geographical location. All right. So Arlene is asking about a question of where would we need to have our D7 visa appointments? We're US citizens, but we're currently residing in Germany under SOFA. Would we need to travel back to the US to do the appointments, or are there places we could accomplish them here?
It depends when your SOFA is going to expire. You need to have at least 3 months of validity when you go to the consulate appointment to ask for a visa in Germany. So it depends when it expires. If it's not enough, then you have to go back to the US to require your visa.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Margaret's asking, VFS appointment, is that done before submitting your D7 visa application or after? It's a great question, Margaret. For a lot of people in the very beginning, all these acronyms get really, really confusing. So VFS is a contractor for the consulates in the United States. So that is where you will make your initial appointment request for your D7. That's the same thing, that the VFS is the consulate. Here's the trick. If you live in other parts of the US, it might not be VFS, it could be e-visa, or you go directly to the consulate. It's kind of confusing because some of the consulates use a contractor and others you apply differently. So for example, New Jersey is e-visa. San Francisco is VFS. It's all working with the consulate for your initial application. So VFS is just one of the contractors that handle the processing to get you that visa application started. Roderick, sounds like Novo Banco is great for setting up accounts, but what bank do you recommend overall long-term and why? Oh gosh, that's a loaded question. I have a bank at my personally, I have bank accounts with BPI, Novo Banco, Millennium. They all have their pros and cons. I will say that they've all gotten better in the last 5 years of having English translated apps. So it's not as difficult as it used to be. It used to be really tough because the apps wouldn't be in English. And so Millennium for a while was the only game in town that would have English functions. Now, I think we're starting to see the banks are realizing there's a lot of international clientele and they're offering English as a second language on their apps. As far as the best, that's a tough one. I personally love Novo Banco because they've been great with us personally, and their app is really easy to navigate, and they're everywhere in Portugal. They're really easy to find. But BPI has been the same for us. BPI is a little more business focused though, so it's been great for the business. Caroline, do you have a favorite, like your personal?
I only have one bank account here. I used to have Caixa Econômica, but it was during my master's degree. Now I have Activo Bank, but it's just after you have the residence permit that you can use them. The Activo is a bank that it's a Millennium Bank too.
Yeah,
They
so
are the same owners.
I think all the banks here have pros and cons.
And
So,
they're a bit similar
yeah, they're all
from each
they all
other.
the same. I guess I can tell you which bank not to go to, and that's the bank inside of CTT. In my opinion, CTT's bank is like, oh my gosh, it's
I've
so
never
hard.
worked with them, so I wouldn't know.
I tried. Don't do it. Just stay away from CTT.
Okay, then you.
Ray is asking, we're using PTP to help us open a bank account and find us a place to live. How do you get a bank account if you need an actual address but don't have one yet? Don't worry, Ray. We can open the bank account at Novo Banco for you before you have the address. That's one of the advantages we have. So you guys are all good. Don't worry about it. The address comes after the bank account when you're working in our process. So you're covered. You're all good. And Susan is asking, does a trust in the US that pays me incremental payouts count as passive income? Caroline?
As long as not just one, you're not receiving just at once the whole income of your trust. If it's a frequent payment and fixed amount, it can be qualified as passive.
Okay, so just not, it can't have an annual distribution. It has to have a monthly.
Annually, we still can work with that as long as not just an amount that will go to your bank account and that will count as savings. Then it's not possible. But if savings is not passive income, something that we have to establish at the beginning to know that it doesn't matter. I have $1 million in a bank account. It doesn't matter. It's
exactly. If you're taking the interest off of the invested million, then that counts as passive.
Then that counts. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Ernest and Kurt. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yay, you got your debit cards. And then you probably got 3 envelopes and a matrix card and a PIN card. And now you have all kinds of mail from Portugal. Jason is asking, if I want to move my pet with me, what must I do? Well, first, it depends on the type of pet. So cats, dogs, rabbits, horses, all good. Birds to a certain level, depending on certification and breed and type of bird. Reptiles are difficult. That gets a lot harder because they have a lot more restrictions. So if your pet is a furry friend, let's just say that, then the first steps you need to do is make sure that they're a qualified breed and that they pass a health. You need the vet to make sure that they're healthy enough to travel and that they are able to be certified with a microchip and have a rabies certification. And then depending on where you live and how many animals and the size of animals from there, it varies depending on the type of animal. But in general, for all animals, no matter what type they are, you have to have microchips, they have to have rabies certifications, they have to be cleared for travel, and they can't be certain breeds if they're dogs or flat-faced cats or dogs. There's certain kinds that can't breathe on the planes. So it's less about Portugal and more about who will allow them to fly. Margaret is asking, how far in advance can or should one open a Portuguese bank account to meet the D7 visa requirements? Can one open it early, 6 to 12 months ahead of time, and start slowly funding it prior to the visa application? Yeah, absolutely. As long as it's funded before your visa appointment, you can start as early as you need to and fund at whatever pace works for you.
Mhm.
All right. Yes, euros. Absolutely, John. And perfect. Fantastic. We look forward to talking with you, Edward. All right. So, John, am I facing any restrictions for first coming strictly as a tourist and then returning to the US to begin the process? Is the tourist visa good for 120 days? So
there are no restrictions. When you come to Portugal as a tourist, you're here as a tourist and you apply for the visa, then you get the residency visa. But as a tourist and an American citizen, your visa waiver is 90 days, not 120. 120 days is how long your residency visa that the consulate will issue for you is valid for. And then you exchange the visa for the residency card. The card is valid for 2 years.
And remember that the 90-day tourist visa is not just Portugal, it's the whole Schengen region. So if you spent 30 days in Italy and then want to come to Portugal, you would only technically have 60 days in Portugal. So you have to remember it applies for all of these countries, not just Portugal.
Yeah.
Sandra is asking, are mortgages available to foreigners if they put down 40 to 50%? Is there a minimum down payment required? So yes, mortgages are available to foreigners. That's absolutely the case. There are three main things you need to know that are different than the United States. One, they will do mortgages for 20% down as the minimum, up to 30, 40, whichever percentage you want to put down from there. But they do an age-rated mortgage here. So you can only receive a mortgage up to the age of 76. So the oldest person in the relationship, or if you're solo, 76 is the maximum for a mortgage. So that's one thing. They don't do 20-year, 30-year. You have an age-rated mortgage. Also, the down payment, the 20% minimum is the required down payment, is on the evaluated amount. They will do an evaluation on the property, and the evaluated amount that the bank assigns is what they will loan up to. You will need to be in a sales agreement before that evaluation happens, and it's not a contingency where you can renegotiate the price. So you do want to understand that you are going to be offered a loan for up to 80% or 70% of the evaluated amount. And if there's a difference after that, that's your responsibility to pay to the seller. And the third thing to note is there's an 8% tax on the top of the sale price that is not financed into the mortgage that you would be responsible to pay at closing. And that is a one-time tax that's 8%. I'm rounding up a little bit, but is 8%. And that is due separately and can't be financed into the mortgage. So those are three things that America is a little different than what we do in the US. There's lots of other elements, and that's what I do. I work completely with our clients that are purchasing homes. And first thing we do is we go through all the education process, and then we have partners that will help qualify you and help you understand what you can work with before you dig into the buying process. And Roger's asking, how far in advance can you apply for your VFS appointment? For instance, can we book an appointment 6 months out? We keep trying, but it says no appointments available. Caroline, you want to?
You can apply for it before, if there's availability there, you can just schedule it and know that your appointment will happen at that date. So it depends on the availability of VFS. Usually they release appointments at the end of the month or the beginning of the month. So you have to check it constantly.
6 months out, very rarely do they have.
Very rarely. It's difficult.
You're usually looking around 45 days, out. Most people that are trying to get an appointment are starting to work about 45 days before their hope for an appointment. And then they just start trying within that window. 6 months is too far out for to be able to secure an appointment. Wendy, I'm currently checking every day for visa appointments in San Francisco. There are currently none available. Are the pending laws causing a pause in appointments, or is there something else that dictates availability?
No, it's just they made them available at the end of the month or at the beginning of the month. It's usually, if now we're in July, they will make the appointments available next for November, I guess. So they wait until the end of the month to release the month that it's next in line.
And Wendy, I can tell you one of the tricks though is if you're looking for cancellations or trying to get in sooner, try early in the morning in that time. Try to be looking early. If cancellations go in and you're looking like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something, all that is gone.
But usually the cancellations are there are not it's 1 or 2 days in advance. So be sure that you already have everything before making this appointment. Otherwise, you will go there and they won't accept the few documents that you have if you don't have everything well prepared.
I think, Wendy, I think they've got everything and now they're just trying to get that appointment. So, yeah.
Okay, if that's the case, just make sure that you have everything. And if there are an appointment available, great.
And early morning, you can catch some things. By the midday, it's all gone at that point. So Wendy, thanks for recommending a NEEF service and helping us get bank accounts set up for us and my mom. It was a very smooth process. Yay. Thank you, Wendy. John, what about the consulate in San Diego? I understand it's an honorary consulate. What is that distinction?
Honorary consulates don't do visas. They are just for some specific services, but they usually are just a support place for other consulates in the area, but they never do visas. So you can't count on them for that.
Unfortunately for the West Coasters, San Francisco is it. And so there isn't another option if you're on the West Coast. Margaret's asking, is it easier to get an appointment with a consulate if you live in Manhattan or a larger city? Well, it's easier on the East Coast. I think it's fair to say that like New York has its own consulate, so you could apply there. And so it just because of sheer volume, it seems like the East Coast has more opportunity than the West Coast. But on the West Coast, if you live in LA, you still have to go to San Francisco. So the large city doesn't help. Heather is asking, what advice do you have for phones and ensuring that two-factor authentication is maintained once relocating to Portugal? So this is tricky because if you're asking about two-factor authentication from accounts in the United States to Portugal, that is very, very difficult because when you're roaming and on another carrier, those SMS texts are blocked and vice versa. If you are with a Portuguese account and you need to verify in the United States with a Portuguese number, because you're roaming on another carrier, a lot of times those get blocked. So what we do for folks when they're looking to relocate and they have accounts like Social Security, bank accounts in the US, health accounts, we suggest, if at all possible, switching from SMS text for two-factor verification to email or to like one of the authenticator apps, because those will work no matter where, but the SMS texts oftentimes get lost or don't come through because of roaming and being on security channels. So for our clients and for ourselves included, we switch to email verification or authenticator apps because of that problem. And Sandra's asking, can you go to the New York Portuguese consulate directly and apply for the D7 visa there? Yes, if you are in New York.
No, if you're in New York, you have the VFS, New York VFS Center.
Right.
And then there are some other consulates that you can go, then you can go directly.
Yes, but you have to be in the geographical, like you have to show that you're in the geographical area. You'll still have to show that you can apply there. Arlene is asking, where can the list of the qualified dog breeds be found? And do you have any pet shippers from the US as well as within the EU that you recommend? There is, I've Googled it before. So I've Googled the list of the breeds. Mostly the breeds that are restricted are the Pit Bull and Rottweiler, the American Staffordshire Terrier and the Rottweiler. They don't 100% restrict them, but they require more paperwork and things. And then the breeds that are restricted from travel are the flat-faced breeds that like a Pekingese and Shih Tzus and things like that, the pugs. And that is in Portugal. Portugal doesn't have a problem with having those dogs. It's the airlines that will restrict those dogs traveling. So you have to look at the airline lists and you can Google in Portugal the breeds. And I believe it's just 2 or 3 breeds that they make you have extra paperwork on. And yes, we have dog pet shippers that we partner with that can walk you through all of it and handle all of it for you. So we can recommend those as well. So Terry, hi Terry. After almost a year in the moving planning process, I'm still confused as to what the tax representative does. Can this be clarified? They're, for your NEEF, I'm assuming this is your fiscal representative. Caroline, you want to explain?
Any person that does not have an address in Europe needs to have a tax representative once you want to establish a NIF in Portugal. So you will be a non-resident when you first have this NIF number. You don't have an American address in your NIF written there. So you need someone that will be the person that will receive any communications that the tax authority needs to deliver to you. So if you have an IMI, IMI is the tax for properties. You need to pay for it, then your tax representative will be notified that you have this IMI to pay. If you need any kind of communication, that this person, this company will be the one responsible for letting you know that you have this obligation towards the tax authority. Once you become a Portuguese tax resident, which is when you alter your address to Portugal, then you no longer need the tax representative.
So a lot of people will apply for their NEEF remotely and maybe a year before they've moved or even more. And you will probably get a renewal notice from the company that you did your NEEF through, asking if you'd like to pay for another year of representation. If you've already moved to Portugal, like Caroline said, and you've already established your residency in Portugal, you no longer need that fiscal representative. But if you are in the US or wherever and you have not yet moved, you need that representative to continue being in that position so that you have that. It's a necessary piece until you move to Portugal.
In such cases, you will need to let the tax authority that you have a Portuguese address and ask them to change your address to your Portuguese address.
Yep. All right. So Margaret's saying she's visiting Portugal this October for vacation. Since I'm planning to apply for a D7 visa in late 2026, what things would you recommend that I do on my vacation to enhance my future plans to move? Well, you know, in October, when you're planning to go in late 2026, one of the things that we really recommend if you're here on vacation is to really try to take a moment to step back and visit some places that are non-touristy. You're not going to be able to go get a NEEF. It's a whole thing to try to go into a fiscal office, try to get that done, not having the language, maybe or maybe not getting an appointment. You could spend hours of your vacation coming out with nothing. So unless you're really under the gun and feel like you have to get the NEEF at that moment, that can all be handled online. So the best thing when you're here on vacation is try to stretch your comfort zone, get out of the tourist areas, go to places that are not geared towards foreigners. See how you feel being surrounded by folks not speaking your language and ordering on your own in a restaurant that feels like it's more geared towards locals. Explore some of the outer neighborhoods that are not as set up for tourists. Wherever you are, wherever you're going, try to get out of the main centers, because until you do that, you really aren't going to experience what most of us are feeling as we live here as residents. You know, I've been here now for 5 years, and in the last 3 years, it's been 3 years since I've been down in the main center square, Rocio Square in Lisboa. You know, that's going to be where you go on vacation, but that's not like where we go every day. It's really important if you want to come here and really get a feel for Portugal, try to step away from the tourist spots and take a deep breath and really listen and look around and see how you respond to it. The rest of the pieces, you'll need to get a NEEF. You can do that online. You can't do anything else without the NEEF. So really the best thing to do is to just focus on the life around you outside of the tourist center. And I think it'll give you a lot of insight to how you feel about Portugal. All right. And Roger's asking, just to verify, you should select long stay and D visa when on the VFS site.
Yes, long stay, national visa, and
the D visa.
D visa.
Yes, for the D7. Mhm. Arlene's asking, for folks who do a lot of work online, is finding strong internet connections difficult? Not at all, actually. I feel like Portugal has some of the best connectivity of any place that I've been. I just got back from Italy not that long ago, and Portugal, hands down, has better internet connection, even in rural areas, than what I see in a lot of other countries. Okay. Is it worth it to meet with real estate agent, rental agents during the visit to get an idea of options and the steps? During the visit, if you are visiting on vacation and don't have a time to actually be moving and are not committed yet to the visa process, I wouldn't schedule the time. First off, the agents probably won't schedule the time with you because here in Portugal, the agents don't hold the keys. Many times they have to coordinate visits with the owners. They have to ask the owners to leave the homes, and they're going to be very reticent to just have someone looking around. They really like to qualify people that they're ready to make a decision. And the best thing you can do if you're just visiting and you're not sure what you're going to do is, again, get out of the tourist areas, kind of really try to focus yourself into more residential places, get familiar with the neighborhoods, what appeals to you. If it's, vertical living or neighborhoods with standalone houses, and then kind of reaching back later after you've had those different comparisons. And then when you're ready, reaching out for assistance with your accommodation. It's very difficult in Portugal to get agents to book any schedule of appointments if you're not committed to making a decision. Let's see. Terry's asking, I went to the move-in site and found what a NIF would cost to obtain. What is the annual renewal cost if it takes me longer to actually move?
The cost for you mean the tax representation, I think.
Yes, the renewal
Yeah.
after the first purchase.
I don't remember by heart. I would say 500, I guess, or 450.
I don't know.
I don't remember all the prices. Sorry.
Well, we can check into that and let you know, but I don't
Yes.
off the top of our head here. Heather's asking, can you clarify what documentation is needed for the D7 visa? Wondering if bank statements that show regular reoccurring deposits would meet the passive income requirements, or is a letter from the institution that is distributing the pension or other passive income required?
This is when it's important to hire someone to help with that, because then you share all the documents that we have, we analyze everything and make sure that what you have is coherent to what the consulate wants. So if it's case to case, we would have to check and see how the documents are set up to make sure that's enough for your D7 appointment.
In most cases, though, if you already have the distribution letter or the pension letter, that's going to be important along with the bank statements, correct? Like if you have it, for sure, it's going to be considered.
Yeah, it has to reflect on bank statements, and in general, yes.
Oh, and just for the earlier question, Sonia jumped in from behind the scenes at Move In and said tax representation is 450 euros annually.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you. And Roger's asking, what neighborhoods do you recommend visiting and living in Lisbon? We will be trying to determine a neighborhood when we visit this fall. Well, that's a really big question because it depends on what your lifestyle is. There are neighborhoods that are fantastic for families, others that are better for retirees. If you have mobility issues, there's other neighborhoods that are better. So that's a loaded question. That's one reason Portugal The Place does location immersion. We will actually, we have packages where we will host you with locals that will take you through the whole process, escort you through the neighborhoods. It's not a tour of the historical sites. It is truly a deep dive into the pros and cons of each neighborhood, what they offer, what the common pricing goes for either rentals or purchases, so that you can make an educated decision. Because there are so many fantastic neighborhoods in Lisbon, but Ajuda to Principal Real to Graça, they're all different and have different pros and cons. So we really get to know our clients, understand what you're looking for in your lifestyle, and then kind of guide you from there. So Patty's asking for summarization of our services, how to access our services. So Portugal The Place has a website, so you can go to portugaltheplace.com, and we have 3 main services. We do location immersion, which is helping you in the early stages before you're even talking about the visa, narrow down and understand what part of Portugal is going to be best for you and your family, both in the near future and possibly for the long run, because we really dive in and ask those questions about what you're hoping to have now and what do you think your future is going to look like? What are you hoping for that chapter to be in 2 years, 5 years? Really trying to understand what your long-term goals are. And that's our location immersion services. And those are 3-day minimum. And you work with an expert guide in your area. And it includes all the support services wrapped around, like we've been discussing, resources to get information on all the partners like moviin and everybody to help you get set up if you decide to move to Portugal. And then if you've decided to move to Portugal, we have 2 relocation packages. They're very similar. One is around rentals. So if you're looking to rent, we can assist you in a virtual relocation package or an in-person hosted. The difference is virtual. We go out and record everything, find the properties, vet them, visit them, give you recommendations, negotiate, help you get the deal secured, and make sure you're all set up, utilities, all the post set up, everything you need to do from deliveries to stocking groceries and all the support. And then if you do the in-person version, then you would purchase the option to be hosted when you arrive and have those appointments with our translation and scout to go and visit those in person. That's the purchase or the rental side. And then we have the purchase side. And on the purchase side, if you're looking to purchase property, you work directly with me and with my real estate team, and we educate you on the whole entire process in Portugal before we ever get into properties to make sure you're well prepared with everything from currency to taxes and to understanding the mortgage process. And then once we're ready to go, then I work with you either virtually. I go out on our clients' behalf. About 40% of our clients buy homes virtually. Or I work with you in person when you come in and help you, again, go through the process, negotiate, help you understand all of the different things you're going to be considering, looking for red flags, so on and so forth. And then we set everything up post-purchase, all the utilities, we help with projects, we help maintain the property while you're not here. And then also included with the purchase is a year's worth of support. We call it ajuda, where we are literally available for help, translation, support on making appointments, navigating paperwork, all of that kind of thing. So we love to work with folks and help them find where they need to be for each person. And our consultation calls are complimentary. You don't have to worry about that. You can give us a call and we can dive into the particulars for your circumstances. All right. Immersion in September. That's perfect. You're getting close. All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other questions or anything else that we need to... Let's see, if we've already picked a city, Braga, then maybe Porto in 2 years, do you have smaller relocation immersion options? Maybe not the full 3 days are needed. We've really thought this through and we found that the 3 days is what really level sets everyone. So our minimum for the location immersion is 3 days. And if you're looking at Braga and Porto, that is a 3-day package, a full day of the Braga and surrounding areas and 2 days for Porto, because Porto includes a lot of other areas, Matosinhos, Vila Nova de Gaia, and the surrounding areas. So it's worked really well for us and we're happy to dive in on how that works. National visa, Roger's saying national visa, we were told D visa, just making sure for the D7 application. Caroline?
Oh, they all mean the same. This D visa, national visa, and long stay visa, they are all the same.
Perfect. Any last questions? No, let's see. I think we are good. Thank you everyone so much. You've had great questions. It's been fantastic to dive in on this. We will continue to offer these types of events. We love being able to get out there and just dive into your particular needs and information that is helpful. We have 2 more webinars coming up this week. We have a Q&A directly with me where we can dive in even deeper if you want to get into lifestyle in Portugal or Whatever question you have on the top of your mind, please feel free to join us. And then later in this week, we're also talking about currency exchange and what you need to know when it comes to planning and budgeting. And so we'll be working with Sarah from Spartan FX, who's going to help us navigate that big question and what we can do to prepare for the ever-changing value of the dollar. So we'd love to see you all again. Thank you so much, Caroline. I love doing this with you. You're fantastic. And
thank you
again, thanks everyone for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.